ecosystem development. After that, I'm going to be calling it Feed. Webinar series. This is for those who are interested in starting a food business or already operating a food business. Today, we're going to be talking about how to work with another business in a shared kitchen. We have two guests who share a space. Jackson Mankowski from the Porch and Erly Barajas from Colombian Flavors. And they'll be talking about their businesses, which they share in Pere, Wisconsin. Before we begin with that, we have some introductions and information about an online directory of shared use kitchens called the Kitchen Door. With that, I'll turn it over to James to introduce the Kitchen Door.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here for this special occasion. We're going to get to our guests here to talk about Porch and Colombian Flavors. But first, we have up here today is Haley Edmondson, who was on our call last week from the Food Corridor to share some information about the Kitchen Door, which is an online directory that you can utilize to either find a shared use kitchen in your area or to also host your own shared use kitchen. And Haley is also the VP of Sales and Retention at the Food Corridor and has worked with hundreds of shared kitchen operators in the last 5 years and helps directing them to industry-specific resources and best practices to support their food business communities. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Haley. Thanks for being here, Haley.
Yeah, thanks, James. I guess that was a great introduction. It said some of the things that I was otherwise going to share. But yeah, my name is Haley Edmondson. I've been working in the shared kitchen world for about 8 years now. And in my current role, I primarily work with kitchen operators, so the folks that are actually running the kitchen and renting their space out to food businesses, like many of you on the call. And one of the tools that we have is called the Kitchen Door. So if you Google or type into your web browser, the Kitchen Door or thekitchendoor.com, you'll see a site that's actually you're able to search by your zip code and see what commercial kitchen space might be available in your area. We try to keep it as up to date as possible. If you see something that doesn't look up to date, feel free to reach out to us, but you can actually send a message directly to that kitchen, and if you're a good fit and it seems like something that they'd like to move forward, they'll follow up with you. So just want to put that out there. If your blocker is just even finding space that might be in your area, that could be a really great place to start. So I'll be on the call if other questions pop up, but thanks for having me here and looking forward to hearing the rest of the presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Haley. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Patrick, but I do want to say that if you all do have any questions about the Kitchen Door or also the Food Corridor, to feel free to reach out to Haley Edmondson and check out more information on their website. And we will have a special little demo of how things work for the Kitchen Door tomorrow at noon. And you can find that registration link on the feed website, or you can just use the same Zoom link that you have here today. Oh, thank you. And I'll hand it over to Patrick.
So today we're going to talk about sharing space or sharing a kitchen with another business. It's a way of paying for or covering the costs for a new kitchen without setting it up yourself. It's a way of sharing some of those expenses And today we're going to be joined by Erly Barajas, Barajas and Jackson Mankowski. We're going to talk about their businesses. They have two separate businesses. I'm going to ask Jackson to tell us about his business journey to open the Porch and how he connected with Erly. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jackson.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Nice to meet you guys. Um, yeah, so basically, the Porch is a bar and it's a music venue. Um, and so I had the idea for this space in 2023, but I wasn't able to find the funding or the actual space for about a year after that. Um, and it wouldn't have been possible without me planting the seed of the idea of the Porch to a friend of mine who works in the city, who then directed me to a program that they have for a small business grant. And then they showed me this space, and I signed the lease. And that's how we were able to make that happen uh, early 2024. But the space had a kitchen as well. And so when we were putting this space together, uh, we were like, man, what should we do with this kitchen? And my buddy introduced me to these folks over at the Cannery downtown Green Bay, which used to be a kitchen incubator, essentially. And so I met with them and I told them about that we had a kitchen that was available and that I'm starting this bar and I'm potentially looking for tenants. And so I said, keep me in mind. And 2 weeks after that, they reached out and they said, so we're actually shutting down, but we have um, a kitchen tenant here named Erly with Colombian Flavors um, that is looking for a new kitchen around town. And so she came over and we gave her a tour of the kitchen. And we basically offered her a deal where I would source some of the supplies, such as the oven and the griddle, and we already had a hood, and we already had a refrigerator and some sinks and some other shelves and stuff like that. And that she would pay me a flat rent fee per month and do a monthly sublease agreement with me. And so she decided to do that, and essentially she subleases from me and pays me a flat rent fee. And then that's how she's able to have the kitchen space and we share the front room. But we're two separate businesses. Um, and it's been a great collaboration so far. Um, yeah, I had to have my landlord write out a lease agreement, like a sublease agreement um, for Airly and then approved that with him. And then eventually we were able to make it work, and it's been a great collaboration so far.
Thanks.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to Erly to talk about Colombian Flavors. And I asked Erly if she could share her experiences and her story of starting Colombian Flavors, first at the Cannery in Green Bay on Broadway, and then joining Jackson at the Porch and opening up Colombian Flavors in the Porch. So with that, Erly, could you tell us your business story?
Erly tiene que escoger el canal español.
Yo tengo el canal
Here.
español.
Okay.
Pero la escucho en inglés. Déjame averiguar con los demás.
Okay.
Yo tengo el canal en español.
Hello, hello.
Can
Can you
everyone hear?
hear me in English? Yeah.
James, you can hear in English. Do you hear it in
Mm.
Spanish too, though? No? Okay.
Yep, I was able to hear Early speak, and I'm not able to hear the interpreter right now.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear
James?
you. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, now we are ready, I think.
Thanks. Please continue, Early.
Gracias, por favor, con the idea of having a kitchen with Colombian Flavors was born out of need in Green Bay. Green Bay, nor the towns around Green Bay, their Colombian food was non-existent. We had a lot of Latin American, Latin kitchens, but no Colombian. So then I was kind of researching, and it was 2023, and I started researching what needed to do, what were the requirements in order to be able to open a kitchen. And then that's when I realized that put together a kitchen from scratch was extremely out of reach, extremely costly. It was not within my financial situation. And in order to find a place to find already a kitchen that complied with all the rules, it was impossible. So that's when they somebody talked to me about the cannery, and that is sponsored by Proof, which is a private organization agency, and the city of Green Bay. Proof sponsored me, adopted me like a child. They gave me training. They helped me through the training. And then when you comply with all the training and you finish the training, you could apply to a place and capacity in a kitchen. So I was doing extremely well with my training, and then I was able to access a space at the cannery. So I met huge amount of people, and then they continued training me and giving me education. We were 5 people who started, and after the time passed by, the 4 other entrepreneurs left, and I was the only one. And then, of course, they decided that the program needed to be closed because of the high rent prices, and they couldn't continue with only one person entrepreneur in such a huge kitchen. So then there we go. I didn't have any space to continue working. Jackson came here, talked to the manager, and the manager told him, you know what, Colombian Flavors is looking for a kitchen space. And then I talked to him and his family were very, very, very nice to me, and we connected, and he had the space, the kitchen. I was looking for kitchen space, and then I moved my Colombian Flavors inside the Porch, and that was in 2024. Up to today, up to this day, we have been able to work as a team. We haven't had any problems whatsoever, and it has worked very good for the clients and for both of us. And so he subleased the kitchen space to me, and that's the way that we have been working thus far.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask a couple questions of Early and Jackson about their working relationship that they have, and how you're able to have 2 businesses in the same space. And Early can also share examples from the cannery. What communications and agreements were needed for you to work well together, operating in the same spaces, two separate businesses?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just say right off the bat, the main agreements was, well, you need to have everything, written down and communicated and discussed properly. And but the big agreements would be the rental agreement, um, splitting utilities and expenses, um, sharing paying staff, and so those are like the basic agreements. But other than that, I mean, yeah, that's what I would say for now.
Talking about me, I will consider that we have had an excellent communication thus far with Jackson. Anything that he wants to change from the bar, or if I want to change something in the kitchen, we get in agreement, and we have been building a very good relationship based in trust. We have not had any troubles. I don't know. I don't have a clue about that part. I don't have a clue about liquors, drinks, so forth, and so on. Jackson doesn't have the bit of a knowledge about Colombian flavors and kitchen. So it has been a good marriage, quote unquote.
Thanks.
Muy bien.
So, as a business, you having eaten at your restaurant and drank at the bar, as a customer, you receive two bills, but you have one server. Have you run into any questions as to why there's two bills, or how is the staff that you have at the Porch? How has that worked out with Columbia Flavors and the Porch being two separate businesses?
Yeah, so what we do is we tell the staff, okay, first of all, we have two separate POS systems. And I told my staff in the beginning, what we're gonna have to do is right off the bat, tell the customers, hey, just so you know, we're two separate businesses with two different POS systems. And so you're gonna get two separate receipts. And so you can just basically all they have to do is give the bartender or the waiter their card, and then the bartender, if they got food, they'll go over to Colombian Flavors' POS system and they'll input that and then get the receipt for that and then bring it over to the other POS system for the bar. And then we'll use the same card to put the drinks on the receipt. And then we'll put those receipts and their card with a pen on a clipboard and give it back to them and just explain that we're two separate businesses. And sometimes it's a little bit confusing, but that's kind of just the stuff you run into when you're two separate businesses sharing the same space. You just have to kindly explain to people the situation.
So, talking about me, the clients that I had in Canary, they already knew about the system, about getting different invoices, different bills, different checks. Most of my clients continue to be people that come from the Canary because they already know, they have been educated about that. And the new customers, they we explain we are two different businesses, but we operate in the same place, at the same place.
Lisa has a question or has her hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. I love this idea. It sounds so intriguing, and your website is really fun with your events and the menu. Not to get too deep in the weeds, but you share your staff. How do you do technical things like hiring and firing or filing taxes or paychecks, that kind of thing? Is when you say you share your staff, all that administrative junk that is like back of the house. How do you share those kinds of responsibilities?
So for paying the staff, um, so we've only been open since July, and so the amount of employees I have has gone from like 5 down to a really good consistent 3 and me. And so I just have to worry about paying them, and essentially I pay them uh, every Tuesday with a check, and I pay my amount, which is the 12 an hour, and they get plus tips. And so essentially, um, I'll write down, I'll calculate the amount that I owe them on my portion. But then before all of this, me and Erly from Colombian Flavors sat down and discussed how we wanted to split the payment. So she pays them on top of me paying them 12 an hour. She'll pay them an additional, I think it's $4, $5 an hour. And then add up all the hours at the end of the week and give them a check on Tuesday as well. So the employees receive 2 checks every Tuesday, and one of them is from me and one of them's from her. And hers is a little bit less than mine, but both of them added together is the total amount that they're supposed to get paid. And the POS systems also keep really good track of things, and everything is separated. So the only thing that we really share payment wise is paying the staff, and that's how we do that.
Thanks. That's really cool, and I appreciate that you have like the patience for that because it is a lot of bookkeeping, it seems like, especially as you grow, it could be. So it's really exciting to see this kind of genuine and mutually supportive agreement.
Yeah, thank you. It's basically just a lot of discussions and a lot of getting everything in writing and then just following through with that. And then it just kind of becomes um, the operations and of how the business works. And then it all just is kind of simple after a while. But at first it was very confusing to figure that out.
And can I ask another question?
If you can hold off just a second.
Sure.
Sure. If you would like to ask another question, Lisa?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I know you just said you started like less than a year ago, so there's a lot of growing to happen. It's just such an innovative marketing model for people who might not have huge amounts of money to invest in a brick and mortar kind of business that I'm wondering, like, what's your interest or what's the interest of, say, De Pere's Chamber of Commerce or other businesses that might also want to learn from this as a way to bring more food producers and entertainment centers online? Because this is a great model for sharing all the tribulations and all the joys. And so I'm just curious if there's been any interest in from other businesses in your model.
Yeah, there have been other businesses that have asked me a bunch of questions about it. There's a lot of interest about it. And I wasn't aware before I started this whole project that that was even a possibility. And then my landlord told me that we could rent out or sublease the kitchen. And I was like, wow, that'll help me pay my rent. And then she'll provide food. And then we can just have it be a positive collaboration. And I mean, that's a lovely thing. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of startup costs that this kind of helps take care of. And same with rent every month. It really helps to have someone back there. And then of course there's breakage every month, expense wise, and there's things that come up. But overall, it does really help to save money, especially when you're starting out. And I'd say, I guess I'm trying to figure out the answer to the last part of your question, but I would just say, yeah, there is a lot of interest in around town from other businesses and how to do that too.
What I want to say is a lot of people have approached me with a dream. They are entrepreneurs. They want to start up a business. They have the illusion to be starting something. So, and they don't have the resources for the commerce chamber of trade. That is the one that I had more relationship with. I have been able to go there and to share my experience of the Latin, because an idea in front, Jackson and me, we are two different opposing words. Jackson only speaks English, I only speak Spanish. So we are trying to interpret each other when we talk. So the barrier of the language barrier is horrible. And for me, it has been horrible from the very beginning, but we have been getting used, and due to that, and we understand each other much more. So all the Latin people that have invited me to the chamber, particular private meetings, they asked me, Erly, how did you get to go there? How did you find that space? A lot of people want to open a kitchen. They don't have the opportunity to find a space with everything operational, panels, all the things that you need that are operational and already passed all the inspection. So I always tell them my story, and I will say, wait, keep looking, and pray to God. Or I always tell them about incubators, those incubators models, because at the incubators, I was able to get in contact with more cooks, more chefs, and more business. I know that out there are opportunities, but they are not informed. We are not well educated. We are not always looking. We are not always going deeply in social media. Perhaps in your cities, you have a space that could be accessible to. And I know that the proof this organization has places in several places in the United States. I tell them, please do not reject your dreams. Do not give your back to your dreams. Keep going, and you are going to be getting there.
How, for Erly, how have you found the Jackson had talked about the way that the financial and management side works between the Porch and Colombian Flavors. Is there a difference between that and what you're experienced at the cannery?
Well, Jackson and myself, we manage our businesses in a very individual way. We have to get together, and we have to be in agreement on how we are going to be tending or serving the customer, how we are going to be talking to the staff in order of how we are going to be serving drinks and foods. I have my cook. So, and Jackson is there with his bartenders during hours where I am closed. So our discussions are mainly how we manage the open space that we share, or the space that we share. So the customer comes and we offer and inform them and say, okay, we offer food and we are offering drinks from the bar. Oh, I only have a beer. Please, the bartender tells them, remember that we are offering food too. Would you like a snack? Would you like something? And then I educate the customer that they are going to be receiving and getting two different checks. Dialogue, communication, patience are super important. And we are just starting. And every startup has a lot of costs, and it not only economical or financial costs, emotional costs. So we need to reach an equilibrium, a balance in which both of us will feel fine.
Are there others that are attending here who may have questions about how you work together in a shared space, a shared kitchen, or in this case, a shared bar and restaurant?
One by one, don't trip into each other.
How do you work out sharing of storage space and equipment between the Porch and Colombian Flavors? Because the building space is not really large, so there's probably not as much storage space as you would ideally want.
Right, we are very limited as it is, just as the porch. So, but luckily, with her kitchen, it is a tight fit, but everything fits in there that she needs. We share some of the hallway storage space that's very limited, very, very limited. But it kind of connects to the rest of the liquor room with all of my storage and supplies in there. So, but next to that, she can store some of her things. But there's really not much else that she needs to um, have other than what she has. And she's been able to store all of that successfully in the kitchen, even though it's a limited space. But it's important that she has her own business liability insurance to cover anything that might happen to that stuff. And that was written clearly in the lease agreement. And for me, with my stuff, we just have to constantly try to make it work with the limited space that we have.
To me, I was used to a very large, huge space, and I was working alone. Remember, at the Canary, I had a cooler, walk-in cooler, so I was able to go grocery shopping for 1 month. For a month, I was used to that liquor. Jackson buys liquor and bottles, and he doesn't need much space. So in the kitchen, we need a cooler and we need a refrigerator. So how did I went from the cannery to here? How did I reinvent myself? So I double my duties and my job in respect to going and buy groceries. I have to go twice a week instead of once a month, twice a week. Twice a week, I have to go to the grocery store and the food suppliers and getting and storing the food in a way that the food continues to be fresh. So I only can buy whatever I can storage in those two very little spaces. But they work double for me, but that is what it is, and I have to adapt, and we all have to adapt.
Any other questions from those present? Feel free to put it in the chat, raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Do Erly and Jackson, how do you handle the marketing of the Porch and Colombian Flavors? I've shared in the chat, you have two separate websites, but do you advertise together in some ways, or is it two separate advertisements? Marketing plans.
Yeah, so we're two separate businesses, and we want to make sure everyone knows that we're two separate businesses, but we're sharing the same roof, because someday inevitably we're not going to be probably working together, and that's okay, because she's gonna have her own maybe bigger kitchen and bigger space too to go off to and do that. So we want to keep the marketing very separate and have that be clear. So that's why it is separated. And for the social media and the website, yeah, we do collaborate with certain events. We'll have specials. We'll do or we'll, like, for Galentine's Day, we did pollo con arroz, right? Which is rice and chicken with it was a food special. It was like a little heart that Erly did. And so sometimes we'll do collaborations like that, and we'll post about that on social media as well. And I mean, we'll support each other and we'll collaborate, but it is two separate businesses essentially. So we handle the social media different. We have different people for that, different people for the website and for the marketing.
Erly, how do you handle marketing Columbia Flavors?
As Jackson mentioned, we do it independently. I invite, for example, when there are concerts or there is a collaboration, then I post on social media. It says, come here, come to Colombian Flavors. We are going to have a nice live music, and you can enjoy a wonderful drink with delicious food. But we do it independently. We collaborate, but independent.
Are you, both of you or either of you, members of the business organizations in De Pere or Green Bay? The De Pere Area Chamber of Commerce, or involved with Definitely De Pere?
Yes, I'm involved with Definitely De Pere, which is I don't even know how to categorize them or describe them. They're basically like they work with City Hall and all the businesses in the city and collaborate with all of them, and they help them out a lot. They're the ones who helped me get that small business grant in the beginning. This lady named Tina Quigley from Definitely De Pere was the one who made that happen. But Definitely De Pere, I'm very involved with them and what Tina does, and I'll send her messages all the time about event ideas that we have, and she'll help us promote them on Definitely De Pere's website or social media. And so I'm not, and I'll attend, city hall meetings and I'll be involved, but I'm not technically a part of any organization or anything with that. I just kind of am affiliated, and I just reach out to them independently and we exchange our thoughts and communicate like that.
Erly, are you involved with the Chamber of Commerce, definitely to Pere, or other business associations?
No, no, right now, no. Thus far, no. If they ask me for some help, I do it. But I have a lot more, a lot of communication with the business, Green Bay businesses area organization, because that's where I was born. They are just getting to know me at this point, at the Pere.
I've been asking a lot of questions,
Oh,
but the rest of you who are attending want to give you an opportunity to ask questions of these two great businesses that are sharing the same space. Is there anything that you might have on your mind on how you work together in a shared kitchen or a shared business restaurant and bar situation? So, how did you determine the hours of your operation? Because you're not open 7 days a week and not always in the morning either.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Initially, we had to figure out what to do because if it wasn't for Colombian Flavors, we wouldn't be open during the day, 11 a.m. on at all, because it wouldn't make sense to pay for staff if no traffic's going to be coming in until probably past 4 p.m. most of the time, between 4 to 10 during the weekdays, and then up to midnight on Friday and Saturdays on the weekends. But what we did was so this week we're actually changing the hours, but up until this point, it has been 11 a.m. to 10 Tuesday through Thursday, and then 11 a.m. to midnight Friday and Saturday. And that it worked out enough to get us this far, but um, obviously have to adjust and adapt after a while. So 7, 8 months later, I had to look at it again because I was noticing that, hey, I'm paying for staff to be here from 11 to 4 p.m. And if we're not getting enough, if they're not getting enough tips for making drinks, then it doesn't make sense for me to, or for them to be there and for me to pay them, essentially. So we had to figure that out. Um, and luckily, the afternoons and the later days in the week would help mitigate everything for me. But I had to make the decision to tell Erly that essentially going forward for now, we're going to have to do takeout or delivery only, or from 11 a.m. to 4 during the week, um, unless she wants to take on paying the staff during the daytime hours for any of those days that she would want to be open for. But to keep the porch running successfully, I have to think about what's right for the porch and to keep us there and able to for it to be a win-win for everybody and work for everybody. So she needs to be able to make enough money and I need to be able to make enough money, and we got to pay for the staff. And so hopefully takeout option during the day and then dine in from 4 p.m. on will be a good solution.
Hey guys,
Yes.
is it okay?
Yep. Go ahead.
So my question might be directed more to for Haley, but I want to congratulate both of you guys, Jackson and Early. Early may also have some advice on this. So I'm trying to launch a food cart in Madison, and it's been very difficult to try to find commercial kitchen space. I have done everything from cold calling churches to senior centers to, regular restaurants. And some restaurants do have some space that's available, but one of the obstacles has been having cooler space or freezer space. Um, so anyway, I looked on the Kitchen Corridor site, and I noticed you guys, have a few listed like Feed Kitchen and all too. But it does seem like, the at least in Madison, there are certainly more cart owners that have either access to like a restaurant, or other businesses like that. So I was wondering if you had any advice, or any other ways we could, I could find that, because like I said, that's really the obstacle right now that's kind of keeping us from moving forward.
Yeah. I can try and answer this one, and maybe if anyone else has region-specific feedback, happy to let someone add that as well. But it can be tough. I mean, it sounds like you've been doing a lot of that work and probably more, due diligence than most people tend to do in terms of just calling people and asking around. I wonder if have you had a chance to connect with feed kitchens or any of the more dedicated commissaries in your area? Have you connected with any of them?
Yes,
Okay.
and there there's a long waiting list for several of them, but or the few that we have here, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've been in touch with the city and communicating that way too. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, that's been kind of the struggle,
Yeah.
just finding a commercial kitchen to work out of. So like I said, it's great that it worked out for Early and Jackson to kind of find each other. And I'm networking with business owners, restaurant owners as well. But I haven't found anything that really would fit, you know for myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah. I mean, you're sort of doing the things I would recommend someone do, which is search the directories, make sure people know you're looking, reach out to restaurants or, maybe people who aren't specifically renting out their space, but would be open to it. So, it's tough. It's a sort of a shortage of available kitchen space and some of these kitchens who this is their main thing. They are running out of space or they don't have the storage. That's actually it can be a huge bottleneck for people too. Um,
does not to cut you off, but does the food court,
yeah.
do you all have like does the feed kitchen and so on, do they reach out to you or do you all, out search, businesses and, that offer that, like in other words, I know there isn't a site that has like you know, a board, like where, let's say Jackson could have posted, looking for a tenant, you know.
Yeah, I mean that is what the kitchen door is. If you are a kitchen and you want to find somebody to rent your space, you can use the kitchen door. So it's a both ends of the market. If you're a food business, you can search on the kitchen door. If you're a kitchen, you can list your space. So, I mean, is that service is available to any kitchen, that's actively operating and is licensed to list on there.
Okay.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
But
Early.
Yeah.
You had the experience of finding a kitchen. What was your experience?
I'm sorry, what was that, Patrick? Was he asking early?
Early, needed to find a kitchen. So I asked her if she could.
I'm going to be telling him several things. First, go and talk with the business chamber, the commerce chamber. They have a lot of information, more that you know about. There is an organization that is called Proof. That's the organization that I work with originally. I don't know if they work or they have an organization in Madison, but they have several cities in the United States. PROOF. There are today, right now, actually, there are food, there are a kitchen, there are food carts that have the space to cook your foods. You don't need for certain type of food carts, you don't need to have a commercial kitchen. How do you know that? You have to go and communicate with the local inspectors, officers. Now there are a ton of modern, recent built and designed food carts that have kitchens, and also some that they have coolers. So in 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 Green Bay, for example, is a small city, but there are a ton of spaces that are renting the kitchens a lot. Then here you can rent one of those kitchens for a couple of hours. Then there are a lot of food cars here that go to the place, they cook and they go and sell. The business chamber, the commerce chamber will help you, giving you a lot of valuable information. I would recommend, and there are private organizations or agencies, yeah, and the data of those private organizations or agencies, they can come from the chamber, of course.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. This journey also started a couple years ago. I reviewed food carts for a couple years to get to know Megan in Madison, who works for the city, and then a lot of the business owners to try to figure out how this would work. Like I said, and it's just been the food cart and just the food industry has kind of boomed over the past, especially the past couple decades. But yeah, I appreciate that, Early. Thank you so much. And I'll look into that.
I just want to add on really quick. Thank you for saying congratulations. And I wish I had a better, answer too, but I'm glad that Erly was able to kind of give you.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Before we leave, I have a question for Jackson and Erly. If you could share with us, what advice would you give a business owner that is interested in sharing space with another business?
I would
What would be
say,
a couple things you'd say?
yeah, I kind of wrote down some basic things. Um, that would just be to discuss everything all the time and make sure everything is clearly defined and in writing so that everyone knows what's going on all the time and that everything is a team decision, um, and just basically be mindful of, because every decision you make, if you're a business owner, no matter how big or how little, it's going to affect everybody. So you really got to think of every little nick and cranny of the decision that you're going to make, and then just also don't get too stressed out, and have fun with it too, because then you have to be creative enough to experiment and try out different things, that are a little bit outside of the box. So you never want to lose that spark that you had when you started. And yeah, it's all about experimenting and just having a game face if you're having a bad day, and keeping everyone optimistic and positive about the future, and even if you're not. And also look for, if you're trying to find funding, definitely look for small business grants. And yeah, look around for there's just a lot of options out there. You just have to really think outside the box. And again, this whole when we started this, it was just supposed to be a bar and a music venue for me, but it happened to have a kitchen, so that's why we ended up being able to have Colombian Flavors there, which was just the cherry on top of the whole project. And yeah, it's good to try things, and that's what I would say. I would also say one more thing. Make sure the marketing is on point, and social media is a big part of it. Facebook and Instagram and your SEO, uh, search engine optimization, and Google. The website should look good. Everything should just look really high quality, even if you have to borrow equipment from people. And I think it's good to document the process, and show people, because people want to invest in a story behind something. So show the whole process. Like for me, I showed the process from start to finish on my social media and of how we built the place. And I think that's really helped with traffic and getting regulars, and just being real with people and telling them, I know it might not be ideal right now, but it will be down the line. So if you just grow with us, that's a big word, is grow with you. If it's, I don't care if it's like the traffic that you got coming in, or your staff, or the city, or your landlord, or your kitchen tenant. You have to tell everyone we're growing together here, and it's going to be great. So that's what I'd say.
Early, what advice would you give?
Un momento, por favor, Adriana.
Okay, so first I will tell everybody this is a quote unquote marriage. And then you have to, as in a marriage, you have to choose the correct person to get married to. Yeah. So this is a marriage. You have to know how to choose the person that you are going to be committing to and with. Everybody has a different character, personality, and moods. And for me, it's very important. And to me, it was very important to feel that I started feeling comfortable in the same space with Jackson as it happened. So for me, the feeling that I need to feel comfortable, I have to have a good energy vibe to work with. But if you don't get to feel that affinity, that vibe, you are not going to be able to work at. And there are people that you cannot definitely don't work with. So everything you have, it has to be. So this is a commercial marriage. Everything has to be in harmony. Everything has to be written. Everything has to be on writing, basically.
And I want to say one more thing to add on to that. Oh, sorry. No.
Go ahead, Jackson.
All right. I was just going to say, um, when I started this, I have no background in this industry or field at all. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I've been doing that since I've been 13, and I've worked different jobs here and there over the years as well. And I'm coming from a completely unbiased perspective and an outsider, who just has done this through just pure doing it and just saying, you know what, we're just gonna say screw it, let's just do it. And you have to just like go in with blind confidence essentially. And another thing is you actually have a lot of resources around you that you need to utilize, like ChatGPT. And I know that everyone has a thing about ChatGPT, but it helps with translation, it helps with understanding the leases, it helps with understanding all the legal matters and breaking it down for you. And without that, it really would have made it a lot more difficult. There's a lot of You have to just utilize all your modern day resources um, and then just look forward to the future and expanding essentially.
Thanks, Erly and Jackson.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Patrick. Really, this is an honor.
I'm going to turn it over to James to talk about what comes next. You're muted, James.
Hey, thank you so much, Patrick. And I just want to take a quick moment again to say thank you to Erly and Jackson for sharing us all this information. It's been really a lively conversation, and thank you to everyone here joining this call too and providing questions to keep this conversation going. I want to just have a quick plug to again ask you to please complete our short program survey. It really does help programs like this be no cost, and it really does improve our future programming as well. Wanted to also let you all know that we do have a special bonus webinar tomorrow that's going to actually be a demo of the Food Corridor Kitchen Management Platform. So that is going to be Haley joining us again tomorrow, and that is going to happen at noon. So a little bit of a different time and day than our other events, but we will also have another feed webinar next Monday on March the 10th. That is going to be about land access for farms and cooperatives. That's going to be really fantastic as well. So please make sure to check that out if you're able. And we also have an in-person event that's going to be in Wausau called the Profitability for Your Mobile Food and Catering Business. That is also going to be a free workshop. It's really fantastic. That's going to happen on Saturday, March 8th. So please go ahead and check that out if you are able. And otherwise, again, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's here. And yeah, have a good day.